students, welcome back. Today I am Anuradha from Art and Progressive School, going to start another topic of the same chapter. The chapter name is the biological classification. So in this chapter we are going to study about the new kingdom today. So in the previous class already we have covered about the classification system. Okay, so we have started from the very basic or the artificial system of classification, that was the Aristotle classification, and after that we have done about the two kingdom classification, right? Then Carolus Linnaeus was there, and after the two kingdom classification, three kingdom classification. So according to the two kingdom classification, we were having only two kingdom. What are they? Plant kingdom and animal kingdom. So on the basis of the whether they are having cell wall or not, we have categorized into plant and animal kingdom. Likewise, we have seen that whether they are autotrophic or the heterotrophic, we have categorized the that thing into the autotrophic, into the plant kingdom, and heterotrophic into the animal kingdom. But still there are some exceptions. For example, Euglena. Okay, Euglena is an organism which is having four type of nutrition, autotrophic as well as heterotrophic. It means that it is having the mixotrophic or mode of nutrition. So where it should be kept, this was the question there. So after that there was the scientist known as Ernst Haeckel. Okay, so he said that we should keep all these organisms in different kingdom, and that's why he proposed one more kingdom, that was the kingdom Protista. Okay, so in the last classes we have done that after the three kingdom classification we are having four kingdom, then five kingdom. So out of all what we have accepted, the Whittaker classification, that was the five kingdom classification. According to him, what we are having now, Monera, Protista, then fungi, okay, and then plantae, and then animalia. So these days what we are having, we are accepting the five kingdom classification, and out of these five, okay, out of these five, what we have said that life started from the single cell. It means that when we were discussing about the Monera, all the bacteria they comes under the Monera. So what are the characteristic feature? That they are single cell, okay, they are the single cell, as well as their cell was the prokaryotic. Okay, what is prokaryotic? Which do not possess any nucleus. Okay, it do not have any distinct nucleus. But as we are moving downwards, what we are observing, okay, or we can say upward, these are the basic one. So don't see like this. So what is going to happen? These are the initial one. After that, kingdom Protista. According to Protista kingdom, what happens? Still the cell is unicellular. Okay, what it is? The cell is unicellular. But now onwards, what you will observe that all they are having the nucleus in their cell. So what you will call them? All they are, what they are comes under the eukaryotic. Okay, so what is eukaryotic? Means they are having the true nucleus, and only the Monera kingdom, under which bacteria are there, they are the prokaryotic. Okay, so that much you think we have done. Now comes to the kingdom Protista. So what are the distinct feature of the kingdom Protista? That it is single cellular, okay, as well as they are the eukaryotic. Okay, what does it mean? True nucleus. So what you will write here in the kingdom Protista, that these are the single cell and the eukaryotes. Okay, now there are some more advancement as compared to the initial one. And if you will see the another point, I have written connecting link, very important line, that this kingdom Protista is the connecting link between the Monera as well as rest of the kingdoms. Why it is so? Because this kingdom Protista shows the characteristics somehow similar to the fungi as well as plantae as well as the animalia. Okay, it has the some similar characteristics with other kingdoms also. That's why it is the connecting link between the Monera as well as the rest of the kingdom, right? So here we have done this thing. The third point is what? If I will talk about the kingdom Protista, mostly they are the aquatic one. Okay, whether they can be the fresh water or can be the marine water or can be both, and as well as some of the members they can be the bottom dweller also, right? So one by one we will understand the examples here and how they look like, right? In the kingdom Funera, we have done so many members, like we have done that Archaebacteria, Eubacteria, Cyanobacteria, then we have know about the Actinomycetes, right, Mycoplasma, so many members are there. Likewise, in kingdom Protista also we are having different members which are having some similar characteristics as well as some dissimilar characteristics. Okay, so now we will understand that how they are. So here one more point, mostly they are the aerobic. It means that they need oxygen. Okay. So here we know that most of them, they are photosynthetic also, right? As well as they can reproduce asexually as well as sexually. So some of the organisms will reproduce by sexual production and some of them will produce by the asexual mode. Okay. So let's start with the first one, that is the chrysophytes. Now we know that kingdom is the highest one, and under the kingdom, what we have done in the first chapter, that under the kingdom we are having the phylum. Okay, so if I will talk about the phylum, so the first phylum is what? Chrysophyta. What it is? Chrysophyta. Likewise, we are having the Pyrenophyta. So we can say that these chrysophytes, they comes under the Chrysophyta phylum. Okay, so first one is what? Chrysophyte. So under the kingdom Protista, we are going to study 5 things. 5 phylum will be there. What are they? Chrysophyta. Okay, then we are knowing about the Pyrophyta, under which dinoflagellates are there. Okay, like with Euglenophyta, then we are having the slime molds and the protozoans, right? So these are the things which we are going to study here. But when I am talking about the chrysophytes, okay, these are the chrysophytes. Then we have to study dinoflagellates. Then we have to study euglenoids. Then we have to study about the slime molds. Then we have to study protozoans. Okay, so under this kingdom we have to study so many things. But what you can say, on the basis of their nutrition, okay, on the basis of the mode of nutrition, we can say that these 3 are what? These are the photosynthetic protists. What does it mean? It means that it will act as a plants. Okay, or we can say plant protist. Those are behaving like a plant. It means that they are photosynthetic in nature, right? So we can say they are what? They are the photosynthetic protists. And when we will talk about these slime molds, it will act like fungi because the mode of nutrition will be saprotrophic. And what are the saprotrophic? It means that they can take their nutrition from the dead and decaying part. So here we can say slime mold will act like a kingdom fungi, and here protozoans. Protozoans, they are the heterotrophic mode of nutrition, whether they can be holozoic, okay, or whether it can be parasitic, but yes, they are having what type of mode of nutrition? Heterotrophic mode of nutrition. So we can say that these protozoans are like the Animalia kingdom, right here. So what we have done here, we are having the 3 different types. What are they? Photosynthetic protist, as well as the fungi-like, as well as the third one will be the animal-like. Okay, so one by one, first of all, we will discuss the photosynthetic protist. Okay, so what are they? These are the chrysophytes. Okay, so it means that they are photosynthetic in nature, and under the chrysophytes we are having 2 examples. What are they? Diatoms and the golden algae, or we can say desmids. So what are they? Diatoms and the desmids. These are the examples of what? Chrysophytes. And out of them we are going to study first about the diatoms. Now this diatoms indicates what? 2. Okay, it means that all these first point about these diatoms is that they are the aquatic. It means that all forms of aquatic, it means that they can live in fresh water also, as well as they can live in the marine water also. So it means that we are having what? Fresh water also as well as marine water. Okay, and they are the chief producer. What does it mean? In the ecosystem we are having producer, then consumer, then the decomposers. Okay, each is having different role. So producers are what? They are producing, and consumers, they are dependent on those producers, right? So here they will act as a producers for the pond ecosystem, or the, we can say, that ecosystem which is present in the aquatic life or into the sea or ocean. Okay, so here if you will talk about these diatoms, how they live, Okay, so if this is the water current, it means that they are passively floating on the surface of water. What they are? They are passively floating on the surface as the water current is moving, so they are flowing according to it. Okay, that's why we are saying they are passively moving along with the water current. So what term you can say it here? Phyton. Okay, so they are playing very important role as a phyton, and we know that so many phyton or phytoplankton are there. Okay, so here what we are using the term plankton. Okay, what we are using? Plankton. And likewise we are having the zooplankton also. So all these things, what are they? We are calling them the plankton, and they are playing an important role with the phytoplankton. Okay, so now these will become the chief producer for the all aquatic organisms. Okay, now comes to the diatomaceous earth. For understanding this, we should know that how the cell wall like. Okay, so if we have done in case of Monera, in Monera we are having the bacteria. So the cell wall of bacteria is made up of what? Peptidoglycan. We know about it. Likewise, the cell wall of these diatoms, they are made up of what? They are made up of the cellulose and the silica. For example, this is the cell. Okay, this is a cell of diatoms. So I will talk about the cell wall. Okay, if this is the cell wall, we know that this all cell wall is made up of what? This is all made up of the cellulose, but in between this some impregnation is there. Okay, it means that there will be some imbibition, and what it is form of? It is form of the silica. So it means that major part of the cell wall is made up of what? Silica, and due to this silica, it is providing the hard structure to the cell, and they are very indestructible. Okay, you cannot break them very easily because it is made up of what? Silica. So that's why we are using these things for the industrial purposes also. Right? How we are using? Because this silica is very hard in structure. So when these organisms will get die off, okay, inside the cell what is present? Cytoplasm is present. So it can be, we can say it can be decay off after some time, but the cell wall which is present here, okay, it will remain at the bottom of the surface, at the bottom of the water, and likewise what will happen? There will be accumulation of all these shells on the bottom. Okay, and due to the deposition of all this silicate cell wall of the diatoms, what is going to happen? There will be very tough structure, and you will call this diatomaceous earth. Okay, what you will call it? Diatomaceous earth is what? Nothing. It is the accumulation of all the diatoms because it contains the silicate cell wall. Okay, and when this will become the economic importance. Why? Because in most of the industries they are using the powder of this thing, and we can say for the polishing purposes, as the nature of is what? It's abrasive nature. What we are calling? Abrasive nature of the cell wall of the silica, what it is providing, we are using for the polishing also. So for polishing industries, or for, we can say, in the toothpaste, we are using these type of powder form. Okay, as well as they are acting as a insulators also. So when we have to make any soundproof room, so again we are using these diatomaceous earth. Okay, another importance we can say that in the paint industries we are using it. Okay, as it is inert in matter, as well as for the purification also. For the purification of oils and purification of syrups, we are using such type of powdered form. So we know different purposes or different importance of this diatomaceous earth. Okay, so this is all about what? About the diatomaceous earth, and we have done that these are the photosynthetic. What are they? They are the photosynthetic proteins. It means that surely it contains the chlorophyll pigment. So how many types of chlorophyll pigment? Chlorophyll A and chlorophyll C. Whenever there will be some green part or there will be some pigmentation, we know that the major pigment is what? Chlorophyll will remain everywhere. Other pigment will depend upon the highest color. For example, if there will be red color, the chlorophyll A will be there, as well as some other pigment will be there. Likewise, if the brown color will be there, chlorophyll A will be there. Okay, so it means the chlorophyll A will remain everywhere, but the second pigment can be anyone. Okay, so we can say the chlorophyll A as well as chlorophyll C, they are present in the diatoms. Okay, now comes to the structure of the this diatoms. As we know that diatoms are what? They are made up of two structure. Okay, if you have seen the soap case, what it is, that upper part, lower part is the base and upper part is the lid. So you can see these diatoms like that only. How? Because it is made up of two shells. Okay, and these shells are known as what? Frustals. Okay, what you will call it? Frustals. So these are the terms which we know. And what do you understand, that there will be upper lid and the basal part, just like the soap case. Okay, and the upper part, what we are calling it? We are calling it apitheca. What it is? Apitheca. And the lower part is what? Hypotheca. The name itself indicates api, above, hypo, lower one. Okay, so like this you can see these diatoms, and these diatoms can be of two types. What are they? It can be in form of pennate type. Okay, it can be in form of pennate type as well as in form of centric type. So what do you understand pennate type? The structure is just like what? When we are talking about the pennate type, it will be some this type of structure. Okay, just like this one. But when we are talking about the centric type, okay, so what you will call it? Just like a petri dish. You must have seen this structure. In petri dish also we are having one base as well as lid also. So it will like a centric and it will be the pennate. Okay. So here on the basis of their forms, we can say there will be the bilateral symmetry. We all know what is bilateral symmetry. Okay, so when there will be division in two equal halves with the only one axis. Okay, this is the bilateral symmetry, and here you can see what type of symmetry? Radial symmetry. Right? So these are the basic thing about the diatoms. We should know each and every point about this one. Okay, so that much is there in the diatoms. Now comes to the another example of these chrysophytes are what? These are the desmids. What are the desmids? Desmids just like comes under the chrysophytes, but here we can say that these are present in fresh water, and that's why they will act as a pollution indicator also. Why it is so? Because wherever the water will be pollutant free, then only you can see these desmids, right? So what we can say, these are the pollution indicator also, as well as just similar like the Spirogyra. Spirogyra is what? It is somehow green in color. So that's why these are what? These are the unicellular green. Okay, unicellular why? Because it comes under the kingdom Protista. So this is the basic feature of the kingdom Protista, that cell should be what? It should be unicellular as well as the eukaryote, right? Then comes to the two symmetrical compartments are there, and you can see that nucleus is present between these compartments. Okay, and one thing more important, in diatoms they are diploid in structure. Okay, what they are diploid, and but if you talk about the desmids, they remain always in the haploid condition. This is very important, the difference between diatoms and this desmids. Okay, now the question arises that we are calling them golden algae also. Why it is so? We know that we are going to study some more algae, and we have done one algae before in the kingdom Monera. What was that? Blue green algae. So total how many algae we are going to study? Already we have done the blue green algae, that was the cyanobacteria. Here we are talking about the golden algae. Okay, and in the later class we will study that red algae, then brown algae. Okay, like this we have to study more. So if you will talk about all the algae, the same feature is that they are photosynthetic in nature, but the difference is that cell organization. So in case of the cyanobacteria, we know that it was the prokaryote, but here this algae is what? It is the eukaryote. Okay, and later on you will study that all these will come under the plant kingdom. So it will become what? Multicellular. Okay, so that thing we should know about the algae. Now, if you will talk about these diatoms, they can be found in varied form. It means that you can see in form of triangular also, boat forms, rectangular. So every structure you can see in these diatoms, if you will see the pictures here. Okay, so what you can say that these are just like a jewels. Okay, so initially we kept all these in the plant kingdom, so it got its name that these can be the jewels of the plant kingdom. Why it is so? Because it is having different pattern, different designs in their structure, but you cannot see these things with the help of naked eyes because all they are microscopic in nature, right? So this much information about these two diatoms and the golden algae, or we can say dasmids also. Now comes to the second one, dinoflagellates. Here this also comes under the Chrysophyta. Okay, this is the second thing, not the Chrysophyta. It comes under the Pyrophyta. So it means what? It means that fire algae. What do you understand by the term Pyrophyta? It means that they are the fire algae. I will tell you that why we are calling it fire algae, right? Here it is also known as the dinoflagellates also. So dinoflagellates are what? The name itself indicates dinoflagellates. Flagellates means flagella, and dino means related to two. It means that this organism having two flagella in their structures. Okay, but if you will talk about the chrysophytes, they do not have any flagella for their movement. That's why I said they are moving or swimming passively along with the water current. Okay, because they do not possess any structure there for their locomotion, but here they are having flagella for their movement. So if you will talk about the structure of this dinoflagellates, you can see this type of structure. Okay, what are they? These are such type of structures, and this is what dinoflagellates. In dinoflagellates we are having one flagella like this and another flagella like this. It means that this plane is what you are calling this plane. This is the transverse plane, and this plane is what? Longitudinal plane, right? So the flagella which is present in the transverse plane, you will call it transverse flagella, and the second one which is taking place all over the length, okay, it is known as the longitudinal flagella. So we can say that in case of the dinoflagellates, we are having two unequal flagella, right? That one is the transverse ones which is present in the transverse groove. So when you will see this flagella at the backward end, it will look like this thing. Okay, but if you see this flagella, you can see it very easily. Now, what is the function of this flagella? We know that some movement is there. So, due to this transverse flagella, it will just whipping like structure. What will happen? The cell will get spin very easily with the help of transverse flagella, and it is showing some movement. Okay, in the whipping like structure. But here this flagella, it is providing proper locomotion from one place to another place, right? So, these are what? These are the flagella present in the dinoflagellates. Okay. Now comes to the important characteristics which is making it different from the chrysophytes. We said that chrysophyte mostly they can be present in the marine form as well as in the fresh water. But here, if I will talk about the dinoflagellates, they are mostly marine in habitat. So habitat will be what? Mostly marine, and as it comes under the photosynthetic protist, so its nature will also be the photosynthetic. Okay, so you can see different colors of these dinoflagellates. They are having the green color, yellow color, brown color, just because the photosynthetic in nature. So what you can say that as it is photosynthetic, so it will be the chlorophyll A. Along with this chlorophyll A, they can have some more pigments, like we can say for the brown color, it is having some xanthophylls, fucoxanthophylls are there, okay, like beta carotenoids for the yellow and green for the chlorophyll A. Okay, so it may have different pigments apart from the chlorophyll A because it is imparting some color here on their cell. Okay, and here you can say again cell wall is present. As in case of chrysophytes or in case of diatoms, we have done that the cell wall is made up of what? Silica, and here these are the plates. Okay, these are the plates of the cell wall. So it is made up of what? It is made up of the cellulose. Okay, so we can say that the cell wall is made up of cellulose and it is having cellulosic plate. So same thing I have written here, cellulosic plate in a cell wall and having two unequal flagella. Yes, Again, very important distinct point about these dinoflagellates is that they are possessing the bioluminescence. What is bioluminescence? It means that those living organisms having a tendency to emit at a dark condition. Okay, so if you will see these organisms during the night hours, what you will see, they keeps on shining. Okay, so it is having the tendency to shine during the dark condition. Okay, so what is the process or the phenomena? It is a bioluminescence, having the ability to shine. Okay, example is what? Noctiluca scandalus. This example is very important. Why? Because it is the only one which can show the bioluminescence. Okay, along with this, some other point about these dinoflagellates are that when these structures, okay, if I will talk about the gonologues, gonologues is one of the example here under the dinoflagellates. When their organism or when their population will become higher at any place in the ocean, what will happen? It will form the red tides. What it is? Red tides. What are these red tides? Means that wherever the population will be more, so whole ocean, if you will see it here, so it will look like the red in color. Okay, if I will draw all these things, or if you can see the image also, what you are observing, that whole ocean. Okay, for example, this is whole ocean. So what is happening? All become red in color. So why this is red in color? Just because the large population of these organisms, right? And these are secreting some toxins. It is harmful for the aquatic animals. Why? Because they are going to secrete some secretion which are toxic in nature, and they are going to die of the fishes also. Okay, so what we can say, that these are the red tides, and example is what? Gonologues, and here they are secreting some toxins which are harmful for the aquatic organisms. Okay, so that much we have done in the dinoflagellates. Now comes to the another one, that is the euglenoids. Euglenoids are what? As I have said, that chrysophytes, dinoflagellate and euglenoids, both, all three, they comes under the plant like protist. Again, what will we will do it? They are also photosynthetic, but here the mode of nutrition can be two. What are they? Or you can say it is a mixotrophic nutrition. What do you understand by mixotrophic? It can be autotroph or it can be heterotroph. So if I will talk about the autotroph and heterotroph, why is it so? It means that they are having some photosynthetic pigment, and due to that, what will happen? There will be the photosynthesis. Okay, so here we can say that if I will talk about the structure of this euglena. Okay, this is structure of euglena, and here there is a structure like this. Okay, this somehow groove is present. So it is having the flagella. What type of flagella you can see? Again, there will be two flagella. How this flagella is lying? See here, one is in this part, longer flagella, and one flagella is present inside this groove. Okay, small flagella, right? So what we can say, that euglena will act as a photosynthetic as well as the heterotrophic also. That's why we are calling it mixotrophic mode of nutrition. And if I will talk about these euglenoids, they are freshwater. Okay, in chrysophytes they can be freshwater as well as marine. Here they are mostly marine, but here they are the freshwater. So habitat is what? The freshwater. And here you can see the body of this euglena. Okay, the body or the whole membrane. This is the membrane, cell membrane. Okay, so the whole membrane is covered or covering with the protein covering. Okay, so this protein covering is known as what? We will call it pellicle. What it is? Pellicle, and it do not have any cell wall. Okay, and that's why this pellicle is providing flexibility to the cell. What it is doing? It is providing flexibility to the euglena here. And what else it is present in euglena? Having two flagella. The first one longer one, and second one is the smaller one. So what do you understand by all these structure? That this long flagella, first of all we discuss that what is the role of this short flagella. Short flagella is responsible for capturing the food. Okay, so whatever the food is present, okay, outside it, what it is going towards this will move inside this structure, and what you are calling it? Gullet. Okay, and here in this gullet we are having the oral groove where the food will enter here and it will get inside the body of the euglena. Okay, so for capturing the prey, there is a short flagella. And what is the role of this longer flagella? It is helpful for the locomotion. Okay, so it is helping the euglena to move from one place to another place. As well as in this gullet, if you will see at the basal part, there is a red color structure. Okay, if you will see the diagram, this is a red color structure. What we are calling it? We are calling it eye spot. What it is? Eye spot, or we can say the red spot. Okay, so this red spot, what it is doing, it will act as a stimulator. Okay, so we can say the euglena can perceive the light. As we are saying, it is having the autotrophic as well as heterotrophic mode. So during the day hours, it will receive the light and it will indicate the euglena that they have to do the photosynthesis. Okay, and that's why it is having the autotrophic mode of nutrition. But in absence of light, during the dark condition, it will act as a heterotrophic. It will search some food and it will have it inside the cell. Okay, so like this red spot is present here at the base of the gullet, as well as you can see inside this euglena contractile vacuole. Whenever we are talking about the contractile vacuole, the role is for what? For osmoregulation. We know that the outermost concentration is what? It is hypotonic, and inside it will become the hypertonic. So we have to regulate the proper concentration of salt inside as well as outside the cell. So for that there is a contractile vacuole. Okay, for what? For the osmoregulation. Likewise, they are having some radial chloroplast. Okay, if you will see this euglena, it is having some radial chloroplast which is going to help for the autotrophic mode of nutrition, as well as they are having some storage granules also. Okay, that storage granules is what? Paramylum. Okay, all these points are very important. So the storage which is present in case of euglenoids, they are what? Paramylum. So this is all about information, and last one is the mixotrophic. Okay, so we can say that on the sum up, if you will see that these are having different mode of nutrition. If I will talk about the Protista, they are having different mode of nutrition. Like it can be photosynthetic also. Likewise, we have done 3 examples here, and it can be holozoic. It means that it takes whole food. So examples are what? Dinoflagellates, diatoms, and euglenoids. All these 3 comes under the photosynthetic one. Holozoic means it is a part of heterotrophic mode of nutrition. So amoeba and paramecium, okay, both comes under the holozoic mode of nutrition. Then comes to the saprobic. It means that saprophytic on dead and decaying organism. So what are these? Slime molds. After this one, we will study the slime molds. Then comes to the parasitic. It means that it is attacking and it is creating some problem or some disease there. So they are the trypanosoma, plasmodium, entamoeba. Then comes to the mixotrophic. Mixotrophic means both autotrophic as well as heterotrophic. Example is what? Euglena. We have done this thing. Then comes to symbiotic. It means that both are living together and they are using each other. Okay, so it means that for the examination point of view, all these terms are important as well as their examples also. So please go through this all points here. Okay, so now we will study the third one, that is the fourth one, that is the slime molds, which will act like a fungi. Okay, slime molds, as I have said to you, that slime molds are what? Just like a fungi like. Okay, that's why we are calling it false fungi also. Why? Because they are dependent on the dead and decaying one, but if you will talk about the cell organization, it will be different. Why? Because fungi is what? It is multicellular, but here these slime molds are what? These are the unicellular. Okay, that's why it is different from the fungi. So what we can say, as the slime molds comes under the Protista, and we know that it is having the eukaryotes as well as the unicellular. So same characteristics, we can write it here in the slime molds also. Now comes to the mode of nutrition. Mode of nutrition is what? They are saprophytic mode of nutrition, as well as now you have to understand that they can change their structure according to the conditions. Okay, if the condition it is favorable. Okay, so during the favorable condition, what will happen? For example, this is a dead and decaying part. Okay, or you can say these are the leaves, right? So in these leaves, they are dependent. So you can see that these slime molds can grow at a very high feet also. Okay, and just like it is growing and growing, and in this condition, They are what? They are in which structure? They are in structure of plasmodium. Plasmodium is what? It is a multinucleate stage. So what it is? In the favorable condition, they are dependent on the dead and decaying part, and due to this they will grow for a longer place or for longer feet, and due to that what will happen? You can see that they can be multinucleated. Okay, but now as the unfavorable condition will come, for example, now there is nothing to take nutrition, no dead and decaying thing is present in the surrounding. So what will happen? It will undergo the another stage, that is the unfavorable condition. So during the unfavorable condition, what it will do? It will form or it will change its plasmodium structure into the sporangium structure. How it will look like this one. Okay, and we know that what is sporangium? It is just similar in case of fungi also. If you will talk about the fungi, there also what is happening? There is a formation of sporangiophore, spore formation will be there. So from here also we can say it can act like, it can be similar like a fungi. Okay, but exactly it's not a fungi. So what is happening here? That after and during the unfavorable condition, this plasmodium structure will change into what? Into this sporangium structure. Inside this one, spores are present. Okay, now as the unfavorable condition will go, okay, it means that when there will be more and more dead and decaying organisms around in the surrounding, what will happen? It will undergo into the favorable condition. So during the favorable condition, what will happen? It will get burst out and all the spores will outside. Okay, and we know that inside this what will happen? Again there will be reproduction and there will be formation of this type of structure. Okay, so from where we have started, it will go on the same direction, but what you can observe here, in their spores they are having some cell wall. Okay, so we can say that slime molds, they are showing some character like fungi. Okay, and some character like a plant also. Why? Because in their spore stage they are having proper cell wall which can be similar to the plant one. Okay, but it's not a plant kingdom, right? So what we have done, that under the favorable condition it remain in the plasmodium stage. When there will be unfavorable condition, it will form the sporangium, and in the sporangium spores will be formed, and when they will get released, so they are having true walls as it is present in case of plant one. Okay, so this much is there in the slime molds, and we can compare with the fungi, but they are the false fungi. Okay, now comes to the protozoans. Protozoans are what? We said they are animal-like protists. It means that they are having what type of mode of nutrition? Heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Okay, so on the basis of heterotrophic mode of nutrition, we know that it can be parasitic, it can be holozoic, it can be saprotrophic, it can be parasite. Okay, so we are having different heterotrophic mode of nutrition. So on the basis of their locomotion, okay, on the basis of their locomotion, we have categorized these protozoan under the different one. What are they? We are having Sarcodina, which is also known as amoeboid, and second one is the Ciliata, known as the ciliated. Third one, the Zooflagellata, it means that flagellated, and the fourth one is the Sporozoa. Okay, so on the basis of their locomotory structure, okay, how they are going to move, we have categorized into four different one. So first of all, we will start the different characters of all these one. So if I will talk about these amoeba, it means that their structure will be just like amoeba shape. Okay, ciliated means, it means that the body is covered or surrounded by the cilia itself. Okay, and name indicates fragile, it means that in their body structure they are having the flagella for their movement. In case of Sporozoa, what it is having, they are not any proper locomotor structure, only there will be the gliding movement. Okay, some slimy layer is present. Okay, so one by one we will understand that how it looks like. So now first start with the habitat. So if I will talk about the amoeboid one, where they used to live, they used to live in the fresh water. Okay, so they are the fresh water, as well as the ciliata also, they are the fresh water. And here they can be endoparasite also. It means that they can live inside any organisms. Okay, and they can attack the organism. Like this, they can create some disease. Here also they can present inside any body, endoparasite. Okay, and here these are what they are, can be endoparasite also, and they can be symbiotic also. Okay, so these flagellated are what? These are the free living one. Okay, and here sporozoa, they are the endoparasite as well as they are creating some disease, and we are calling it pathogenic. So these are the habitat and their nature, how they are living at their places. Okay, now comes to the second very important, locomotion. So on this particular character we have categorized these four. So if you will see the amoeboid one, we know the amoeba is just like this. Okay, and these are having some false feet. And what you are calling this false feet? Pseudopodia. What you are calling these feet? Pseudopodia. So with the help of the pseudopodia, they are moving from one place to another place just to capture their food. Okay, so here the locomotory part is what? Pseudopodia in case of amoeboid. Likewise, in case of ciliata, if they are having the cilia, where you can see the cilia. If I will talk about the paramecium, okay, paramecium we all know what it is. Paramecium. So all over what you can say, that cilia are present. So due to this cilia, what is will happen? They will move into the water. Okay, when these cilia are moving in the water, so what is happening? And due to that only food will enter towards their oral groove. Okay, as well as they are helpful for their locomotion also. Now comes to the zooflagellata. Zooflagellata means that zoo means something related to the animals. Flagellata means that flagella are there. So it can be one flagella, it can be two flagella, it can be many flagella in those types. Okay, so it means that flagella can be there. If I will talk about some example like the leishmania, okay, they are having the flagella, right? So likewise, we are having some more examples we will study right now. Then comes to the sporozoa. If you will see the locomotory structure, they don't have any locomotory structure. That's why they used to do the gliding movement. Okay, so their outermost surface they are providing into the gliding movement. Okay, now comes to the nutrition. Nutrition is what? How they are taking their nutrition. So they are the heterotrophic, they are also heterotrophic. So all these four the heterotrophic. But under the heterotrophic mode of nutrition, what they are specifically? So here they are holozoic. If I will talk about amoeba, what they are doing, whatever the food is present outside, they are just capturing the food, whole food inside the cell. So we can say what type of mode of nutrition? Holozoic mode of nutrition. Again, in case of paramecium, in the ciliata, what they are again they are taking their food inside it. So again, what type of mode of nutrition? Holozoic mode of nutrition. If I talk about the zooflagellata, so what type of mode of nutrition? Saprozoic. It means that they are dependent on the dead and decaying part. Okay, and then comes to the sporozoa. Again, they can be heterotrophic and they can be the saprozoic. Okay. Now comes to the asexual production and the sexual production. So it means that both are can be there in some of the organism, asexual and some sexual production. So if I will talk about the amoeboid, we know that what type of division, what type of reproduction it is there, asexual reproduction, and what type of asexual, it can be binary fission as well as a multiple fission. What do you understand by binary fission? If the cell will divide into two daughter cells. Okay, so with the help of what? With the help of the division of nucleus, with the help of division of what? Karyokinesis and cytokinesis. First nucleus will get divided and then later on what is happening? The cell will get divided. Okay, so this one can be divided into two parts, right? So this is what? Binary fission. And another one is the multiple fission. What is multiple fission? During the unfavorable condition, this amoeba will form a cyst-like structure. Okay, what it is forming? It is forming cyst-like structure, and here they will withdraw all their pseudopodia and it will form this hard covering. Okay, when the condition will become favorable, so this will get ruptured and all these amoebae cells they will release out in the atmosphere and form the different types of amoeba. Okay, so this is what? This is the another mode of asexual reproduction, that is the multiple fission. Okay, so again they are making what? They are making the plasmodium. Right? So what we are calling the structure? Plasmodium, but it is different from another one. We will discuss. Then comes the another transverse binary fission. Transverse means what? In the transverse plane. This plane is what? This plane is transverse. If I will talk about this paramecium, so how it is going to divide in the transverse manner. So what type of binary fission? Transverse binary fission. Here also binary fission will be there, but the binary fission which takes place at Leishmania, it is the longitude. It means that it takes place in the longitudinal plane. Okay, and after that there will be division into two equal halves. Right? Then comes to the sporozoa. In sporozoa, they are having the multiple fission, same like in case of amoeba. right? So here the condition will be somehow different. What you can say, in this multiple fission, again they will form some cyst-like structure, and inside this there will be formation of so many nucleus. Okay, but in case of the sporozoa there is somehow difference. If you will see the structure, it is having what? It is having the uninucleate. But the plasmodium which we have done earlier, these are what? These are the multinucleate. So sporozoans are what? They are the uninucleate. Okay, so you cannot compare both of them. So what it is? It is uninucleate. So this is what? This is also plasmodium. This is also a plasmodium, right? But here what is happening? It is a multinucleated. Here it is a uninucleated. Now this one is responsible for what? This one is responsible to cause the disease. Okay, and they are pathogenic also. That's why these are the malarial parasite. What are they? These are the malarial parasite which is causing the malaria. Okay, so here this parasite is taken by the Anopheles mosquito and it is provided to the other individual. So we can say what type of condition it will be there? Multiple fission. Okay, and here sexual production is what? Syngamete, means that two things will get together and there will be transfer of the things which from one parent to the another parent. Likewise, conjugation, two things will come together and there will be transfer of the genetic material. And here in case of these flagellated, there will be no sexual reproduction is found, and here there will be the gamogamy or the alternation of generation. It means that sometime it will be remain in the sporophytic condition and sometimes it will be in the gametophytic condition. Okay, so likewise there will be two mode of reproduction here. Apart from that, if I will talk about the nucleus, okay, because all they are what? They are the eukaryotes. It means that they possess distinct nucleus. So here how many nucleus? Mostly it is having the mononucleate. But if I will talk about the Coeleta, they are having two nucleus. Okay, that's why, and both nucleus they are different from each other. That's why we are saying dimorphism. Dimorphism means what? Having two different types of nucleus. Okay, and here again in case of Zooflagellata, it is having the single nucleated. Okay, they are what? They are the mononucleate, and here you can say again these are having the single nucleus. Okay, but some exceptions are there. If I will talk about this Pelomyxin. Okay, in this case, as it is mononucleate but it is multinucleate here. But if I will talk about here, as I have said, they are the mononucleate, but in case of Giardia, it is a binucleate. Okay. And the another characteristic is what? Trichocyst. Trichocyst is what? They are the structure which is responsible for the anchorage of the cell. Okay, they are preventing themselves from the any predator also, as well as they will act as an anchorage structure. So if you will see this anchorage structure, it is present only in case of Coeleta. Okay, as well as in case of all three one, they are absent. So trichocyst present only in case of what? In case of the Coeleta. This question is very important from the examination point of view. Then comes the examples. Examples again becomes very important. We all know that under the amoeba we are having amoeba as well as entamoeba stilica. Okay, this is also type of amoeba like structure and it is causing the amoeboid disease. Okay, due to this what is happening? Dysentery diseases are there, right? As well as if I will talk about these Coeleta, we are not talking about any disease here, right? Examples are Paramecium and Balantidium. And now if you will talk about the Zooflagellata, yes, they are causing some disease for the human beings also, like Trypanosoma gambians. This example very important. Why? What disease it is going to cause? What is it? Sleeping sickness. Sleeping sickness caused by what? Trypanosoma gambians, and it is having proper flagella, right? And what it is called as sleeping sickness. And what is the vector here? CC fly, right? Then comes to the another one, Leishmania donovani. This one is responsible for causing the Kala-azar. Okay, and what is the vector here? Sandfly. Okay, and now comes to the third one, Trichomonas vaginalis. What it is? It is causing the disease in case of the human female. Okay, what they are causing? They are causing the sexual transmitted diseases like the leucorrhea. Okay, so due to the leucorrhea, what is happening? Very foul smell from the vaginal part, right? So all these are important from the examination point of view. Again and again I am telling you. Now this chart is also known as what? It is known as the grand old man of intestine because its structure is just like a grand old man. there is one more term, digenetic. What do you understand by digenetic? Means that when any organism, they are completing their life cycle into two hosts. Okay, so whether it's a trypanosoma or the leishmania, what they are doing, they are completing their life cycle in human also as well as in vector also. Here in case of trypanosoma, what is the vector? CC fly, and in case of leishmania, what is the vector? It is a sand fly. So what you will call it? Digenetic host. Okay, so this point is again very important. Now comes to the Plasmodium vivax. As I have said that this one is responsible for causing the malaria, and this is what? This is the malarial parasite. Okay, so that much we have completed here about the kingdom Protista. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you.